Seems like whatever I do is to help people fall in love with nature, because if they fall in love, then your work is over. You've done your bit and they take it from there. But I was going to wear my loon shirt for the interview, and I forgot about that, and I was even back. My name is Chloe Chun, and I'm not formally trained as a naturalist. I'm self-taught, meaning I palled around with a lot of birders and plant enthusiasts and people who love nature, and learned a lot just by observing on my own. Teaching natural history means I have to really be on my game. You know, I have to review everything and teach myself new stuff and make sure I understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. Well, my dear friend Dorcas Miller had the brainstorm, but because she and I had been on some exploits of our own over the years, like mountain bird surveys and such, she called me up and said, "How would you like to help me on this idea?" And I just thought it was exactly what I would like to do. The four of us, Dorcas, Susan, Fred, and I, met for a whole year and made our plans, which from scratch, that was a lot of planning. You know, all the lessons and all the field trips. It took a year of planning, and there was always, you know, looking for places and finding grant money and so forth, and then mustering up a class. So it takes a long time to start something. The things I can say I brought to the program, which I think it has done well to have, are using nature journaling as one of our big learning tools, developing a framework of systems thinking and ecological principles as a context to hold all the identification of species that we were learning. You know, yes, we're meeting and greeting all these nitty-gritty plants and animals, and how do they all live together in one big house, and how do we relate to each other? To have a speaking acquaintance with all the beings around us that we're related to, but maybe forgot that we're related to everybody around us. And by speaking acquaintance, it's always nice to be able to greet them by name, to know who they are, and to stand up for our fellow beings when they need us. I clearly remember our biggest challenge was, how do we fit everything we want to teach into 1 year? How do you make a naturalist out of a person in a year, when for the four of us it's been a lifetime of working on it? You know, how do you help people just jump there? Get it? Yeah. Well, after 3 years of teaching it in my area, my region, I felt like I had kind of found all the people I was going to find in my area, and just keep educating all the time where I live, and not be trying to make it a statewide thing anymore. I felt like, you know, the program was running so well that I could step back and let other people who wanted to travel and do that take care of that kind of thing. I see it making waves, making ripples out to the furthest reaches in the state of Maine, and even being a help to other states who want to start theirs. And our mission is to create a learning institution for Mother Nature, helping people go to the classroom in the outdoors and learn all about their relations, their relatives all around us that sometimes get neglected. Know your place, know where you live, get to know all the other fellow inhabitants with you, with whom you share space. It's their space. We're just the most late newcomers, and we need to get to know them.
Looking for the Stevenson Preserve?
Are you crying?
Yes! Oh, thank goodness, Susan.
You start with a group of people that you're about to lead into the woods by creating a foundation of credibility. And that's a Venn diagram of 3 circles that overlap. And the first one is you introduce yourself. My name is Susan Hayward. Should I look at that? Why should they follow you into the woods? Who are you and what expertise do you bring to this? And my formal background is studying botany and education and birds in college, teaching high school science for 6 years. 35 years at Thorncrag Nature Sanctuary in Lewiston. Number 2 is, where are you standing? Just give them 1 or 2 sentences about this space that we're going to be in, so they feel safe, so they know the trails, so they look at a map, so that they know what's going on. And the third thing is the agency, and that is, who owns this? You know, where are we standing in the bigger context of the community, and how did it come to be public, or how did we come to stand here? You know, what is that kernel that is sown, that seed that is sown very early? And I'm an urban child. I grew up outside of the District of Columbia, and we had a backyard, and it wasn't very big, but it had a wilderness. And I would spend hours back there with the black widow spiders and the other things that come with Maryland. It's our job to generate naturalists that are generalists. Dorcas's original vision was volunteer, teacher, naturalists. Dorcas set the bar, so that kind of almost university level content was there from the get-go. Our next step was a little bit edgy. When we were in the kitchen, we go, okay, now what? And Fred Chahaki was part of the founding, and he said, well, how about Chewonki as an initial site? We all had colleagues in the field and with specialties, and we knew we could turn to them, and we did. The challenge was, how do we meet the needs of adult learners who have lives and have jobs and have children? What do adults need to know as naturalists to take it effectively and successfully into the community? Just because you're a brand new spanky out of the box graduate from this program and you know all the names of 12 ferns, that doesn't mean you tell them. Anybody, don't tell them the name, because as soon as you say that's a shield fern, a wood shield fern, then woo, shuts down. It changes course to course, it changes topic to topic, it changes location to location. I want to be sure to thank the students over the last 5 years for allowing us to measure those changes and respond to them and make the next year better. There's always Mother Nature who's going to throw you a curveball. It doesn't make me nervous.
Okay.
Is that still running?
Yeah.
And it was Dorcas's idea to wean off the 4 founders. I just went off in June, and so I'm the last one to go. And that was very, very smart, but it means letting go of this child that you've given birth to and raised for 6 years. I don't mind being involved beyond my service on the board. Yeah, if I'm invited to teach, if I see an opportunity for an advanced seminar, I'd be glad to do some, continuing ed on ferns or forbs or other things. We're going to teach adult volunteers to be naturalists, to take it into their community, and that's immutable. Yeah, green and growing. Chlorophyll. I'm a fan of chlorophyll.
I collected everything as a kid.
Well, my name is Fred Chahaki.
Shells to rocks and minerals, fossils, butterflies and moths. I would get high school kids when I was like 9 or 10. I would get high school kids who back in the day, one of the things they did in school was they had to make a collection of something and in their science classes, and they had to some of them were making collections of tree leaves. They didn't know one tree from another. So they would say, we'll give you $10 if you help us make the collection. So I would make spending money. So this is what we call the Nature Museum. This is where I spend the summer leading the camp on wonderful natural history adventures. I kind of had a model in my head and also in practice connected directly to Chewonki. And I thought perhaps this model could be extended.
And I learned through the grapevine that there was movement afoot to start a Master Naturalist program. And we decided very early on that this was going to be an eclectic and comprehensive program. We weren't going to focus on specific things. Well, you know, the classic naturalist in the 19th century was a teacher, as well as an explorer and an adventurer. They all did that. So we wanted to spread this thing around the state of Maine, and then we had to figure out how to do that, because we wanted to keep a tight connection to the original philosophy. And if the board could not go to teach, let's say, I don't know, Fort Kent or someplace like that, then who would be actually teaching? Who would be in control of the program? So it was figuring out how we could maintain this control ourselves and yet be able to take it other places in the state of Maine. I am currently the technical and science advisor to the program. So I field questions, present a program at the conference whenever we have it. That's the role I continue to play. So I would hope that the current board members who came through the program are content with what they have and want to maintain it, because it is probably the best in the country as far as I can tell.
You cannot appreciate unless you can really see. You know, it's not just what's on the surface. You have to really see through that surface. There's a lot there. This is a little bit like the hypertext in your computer. You know, you click on this, and all of a sudden a new window opens up, and here's something that you haven't seen. And then you click on something in there, and something else opens up, and something else opens up, and pretty soon you're looking through multiple dimensions. I would advise the board and any future students to really remain true to the philosophy and mission that began the program. It's essential, I think, to have a very comprehensive approach to natural history, cover as much of the eclectic world of nature as possible in order to get a real feel for the interrelatedness and connection of all things. And part of being a naturalist is sort of suspending what you expect to be anytime you're out. You really want to be able to notice what emerges. You have to allow for the serendipity of the moment. See, that's what the history part of natural history is about. It's about the unfolding stories, the stories that are just emerging. You know, they're just really never ending. There's so many levels to the story, so many implications, and so many lovely amazements and subtleties and wonders that are just coming up, bubbling out of this. Let's see that. Let's notice that. I think maintaining our philosophy, keeping this alive, maintaining the comprehensiveness of it, having a real sense of the tradition of being a naturalist, and instilling that in other people through our volunteer activities, I think is really the essence of what we do. If we let this tradition die, and there's a good chance that it could, you know, unless we are really dedicated, I guess, and intentional on maintaining it, it will disappear, and then we will have just run-of-the-mill, superficial approach to the world, and I just think that would be a travesty.
These are dehydrated. Some of these have been skinned.
Dorcas Miller. I'm pretty much self-taught. I took botany for the first year of college because we all had to take a science. When I got out and started doing all the outdoorsy stuff that I did, it seemed like, how could I not know about all this? So I just started learning. I worked for Outward Bound, got hired at Chwanky for a year-long program, residential for high school students. After that, I started writing outdoor books, outdoor camping cookbooks, a variety of natural history books, a Nature Lover's Guide to the Maine Coast.
I had been teaching at the Augusta Senior College for a couple years, and I was teaching 15 students each semester. And after a couple of years, I thought, you know, I'd like to have a bigger ripple. I'd like to do something that will reach more people. And then I saw somebody wearing a vest with a patch that said Texas Master Naturalist Program. And I went, what is this? Maine needs one. Somebody ought to start it. I ought to start it. So I called people I knew. Eventually I called some people I didn't know. We got everybody together and we worked on all the details and set up the program. That was in November, and we started the following September. We got organized as a nonprofit, and we got a grant to start, and we put out notices, and we got a lot of students. We had a pretty good idea of what we wanted, which was good old-fashioned natural history. People learn best when they're engaged, and they're fully engaged, when they have things to pick up and feel and look at and consider themselves. We use a lot of student kits. These are the collections. We do ferns, wildflowers, and shrubs. How to identify trees by just looking at their twigs. We also look at bark. The goal is to use resources, to learn how to use the tree, key and guide, to learn how to use them, to learn how to use the fern finder. People can pick it up and look at this beautiful insects. Lichens are not plants. Skulls, to look at behavior. Scat, the herbivores do pellets. This one has seeds from berries in it. Each little piece has a story of how it got there that you can read by looking at the shape and form. The feet are paddles. They're huge. A mole digs its way through life. We have this wonderful course, and people are involved and take it and learn and get really excited and go out and share with groups in their home. At each place we've held a course, there are people who now know each other and go out with each other to look at, to bird, to botanize, to do things, and they volunteer together. There's the Blue Hill, the Mount Desert, the people around the Bangor area. There's a little one in Farmington, nice contingent in Bridgeton, and down in the Portland, Augusta. Because it has been an all-volunteer program, that the people who teach and the board members, it's a big challenge. You learn a tremendous amount, and it's a challenge. Time, there was everything to do. There was always everything to do. And since I retired from the board a little more than a year ago, I just have realized how much I gave up a lot to do this. Totally worth it. I love the program, and I still work with it. I teach, I work on the collections, I do advanced seminars. I guess it's my way of giving back to everybody for all that I've gotten to learn and the wonderful people I work with. Do I have to answer that?
You don't have to answer.
There's just so much to do to make sure that everybody gets an absolutely top-notch experience. And eventually, people burn out. So we have to keep instructing. So we're not only teaching naturalists to go out and volunteer to teach, we're also bringing in people who want to be instructors. It's great. There's a naturalist network here in Augusta. I want to do something. I call them up. Hey, there's otter scat down on the ice along the Kennebec. You have to come now and look at it.